he even talked about it, I think, before we even shot that scene. He says, I've been wondering if we should kill you, if we shouldn't kill you, because, and he said, well,
And we've decided to kill you.
Then they decided to kill me.
In theaters next Friday is Insidious: The Last Key, the latest installment in the blockbuster franchise launched by James Wan and Lee Wanell, and it looks like we finally caught back up to where the series began, but the films have certainly taken an interesting route to get back there. Now to me, the way Insidious plays with their timeline while having everything fit is what makes Insidious the most original haunting franchise in horror. Now originally focused on the Lambert family, the series has pivoted to Elise Rainier, the psychic who assisted the Lamberts for decades, which seems simple enough except, spoiler alert, Elise dies at the end of the first movie. But that's where Lee Wanell comes in.
Lee has such a great sense of playing with time, and this was an attempt to sort of go full circle and bring us back.
Timelines aren't the only thing that Wanell approached in a new way. A haunted house story isn't new, but a haunted house story with a boy with the ability to astral project is. Especially since while he's comatose, the man with fire on his face, which by the way sounds way better than Lipstick Demon, does his best to get inside his abandoned body. It completely reinvigorated a subgenre that at that point had lost its originality, and the concept, along with the series' signature blend of jump scares and tonal suspense, played with audience expectations and drove us deep into the further, creating a world that would spawn 3 other follow-ups, even though that wasn't the plan.
It definitely wasn't planned. I'd love to sit here and say there was a grand design that has existed, but it really was reverse engineering. Like, as Lin said, we wrote that first film. We were just hoping that anybody saw it.
That's what is the most surprising about the Insidious franchise to me, how well it all blends together. As for the character of Elise, no one, especially Lin Shaye, expected her to be the star of the series.
It was a done deal, and I don't think at that point anybody really thought it would just be a standalone film that we were hoping was successful.
I remember when I was writing the third film, I went and actually visited Lin. I went to Lin's house and we sat down and I said, listen, I really want to make you prominent in this film. And it was great. I hadn't written a word yet, but I wanted to get Lin's input. And you remember we spent the afternoon
But I didn't say
talking.
anything important.
No, you did, remember? I mean, you were opening up about stuff that had happened in your life that was
That's true, I did.
Incidents of psychic phenomena and just unnerving things that had happened to Lin in her life, and I really wanted to incorporate that into the script.
It's almost easy to forget that the character of Elise doesn't show up in the first movie until 45 minutes in, and then she dies at the end. You're not supposed to show up deep in the second act of a movie, not make it out alive, and then somehow become the star of the series. Seriously, try to name another example of that. Exactly, you can't. Especially not when you're talking about the hero, which Elise, played by Lin Shaye, who has since risen to full-on horror icon status thanks to the series, definitely is. We've seen her first as a mysterious medium, then a badass ghost, then jumping back to when she was a reclusive widow who tried to avoid her gifts, and now we see her as a confident spiritualist facing off against the literal and figurative demons of her childhood by going back to her family home.
Because Elise is sort of like a superhero and she's not that afraid of ghosts, that she has to face something down that would truly even scare her. And so how do you do that? You go back to her childhood and the thing that robbed her of the thing that she loved the most, which is her mom.
Helping Elise is Tucker and Specs, and while their work in the first 2 chapters made them fan favorites, it's really in the prequels, as we watch them go from unsuccessful web hosts to Elise's trusted support system that they really shine. But it's not just Tucker and Specs that make an Insidious film an Insidious film.
What's really interesting is I read an early draft and it didn't have an entity initially, and I thought, when I think of Insidious, I think of Lipstick Demon, I think of this iconic entity. I said, let's do an entity that embodies this idea.
I can't imagine the film without its big bad, especially since the entities faced throughout the series are such a key part of the films. The man with fire on his face, or the Lipstick Demon of the first film, terrified audiences and made Tiny Tim's tiptoe through the tulip. You know what? Actually, nope, never mind. That song has always been creepy as hell. It's also the first film where we're introduced to the Bride in Black, the spirit of Parker Crane who haunts Josh Lambert, but it's really not until the second film that we learn that she's even more dangerous than she looks. Okay, it's really like the very end of the first film, but it's recapped in the second, so that counts, right? The third film takes place sometime before the Lambert haunting and draws Elise out of retirement and exclusion to face off with the man who can't breathe, who has used Quinn Brenner's grief and longing to contact her mother to sneak through the further back into our world. Elise getting back into the game also antagonizes the Bride in Black, who's still super pissed at Elise for not letting her inhabit Josh Lambert 25 years ago. But the whole thing just helps Elise realize the full power and responsibility of her gifts. Which brings us to Insidious: The Last Key and Keyface, or the man with the keys. Like so many things in the Insidious series, locks and keys just fit within the world created by Lee Wanell, and they naturally serve the story. This time, it's the earliest stage of the saga, for now, to see Elise as a child grappling with her abusive father's fear of her gifts. After being banished to the cellar, she discovers a red door and a key that unlocks the further and unleashes an entity known as Keyface, or the man with the keys. When the man man with the keys returns decades later, Elise must as well and face her history there, which proves integral to stopping the evil. But again, that's what makes the Insidious franchise so fresh and original, the intricate world that it's crafted. It's so easy to think of horror franchises who responded to unexpected success by jamming in new characters or finding a way to bring back a seemingly dead villain. Insidious doesn't do that. The films work because of the rules established within them and how they allow Leigh Whannell to bend time and let the characters thrive. It would have been easy after Elise's death to follow her as a spirit, but instead they hit the reset button and set up a prequel, and then a sequel to that prequel where much of the story hinges on events that happened 60 years before the films even started, but they still bring us back up to that first film. I mean, who does that? That said, I'm 100% on board for the next film to be Ghost Elise solving mysteries with the help of Tucker and Specs. Insidious: The Last Key is in theaters next Friday, but tickets are available now, so you can book your next trip to the Further today. Now, are you ready to see Elise go home? What's your favorite Insidious film? Do you think we'll ever see what happens with Allison from the end of Chapter 2? Let us know in the comments, and remember, Fright, Hype, and Crypt TV are all over the internet. Until next time, keep the horror on the screen and off the streets. I'll see you then.
Watch new scary vids every Tuesday, Thursday, and Friday.